Hey guys, my name's Kristen. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a pumpkin topiary. You'll need a hot glue gun, glue sticks, wooden dowel, styrofoam pieces, craft foam pumpkins, fake leaves, rocks or pebbles, basket and planter, and then some raffia. Here I'm taking the foam pieces and I'm gluing them to the bottom of my barrel or basket. I'm making sure to really secure them down with that hot glue. These foam pieces are really to just create a base. I don't want my pumpkin seeping all the way into the barrel itself. I really want to create some space because around that bottom layer, we're going to be putting some of that fake hay surrounding it as if the pumpkin fits perfectly at the top. Here you'll see I'll be adding a second layer of this foam piece to really bring that height up. And what I decided to do is I actually decided to kind of crisscross them. And in doing that was the idea that in between both of those pieces of foam, I would put what you see here is rocks just from underneath my front porch that I gathered outside. You, of course, can go and you can buy pebbles. I know that they have them at the dollar store or any kind of craft store. I personally found it easy to go and gather those rocks from outside. Here I'm just really putting it around, really making sure that the weight is distributed really equally. You want to make sure that it's really equal on all ends because outside, at least for us, I live in Chicago, and I don't want on a windy day for this to be heavier on one side and then have the wind take it away. Now I'm going to go ahead and since all my rocks are secured at the bottom and I'm really comfortable with the weight distribution, I'm going to go ahead and finish up covering this barrel top, right? Really leveling out these foam pieces and making sure that that whole top is covered to really create a base for that first pumpkin. Okay, now that I'm completed with that surface foam, I'm going to go ahead and center my pumpkin in the middle of the barrel, making sure that I really like the positioning. Currently, I'm just cutting off a tag. I would definitely recommend cutting those tags, not pulling them, because let's remember these pumpkins are foam, and the last thing you want to do is rip a hole in this kind of a pumpkin. Also, these stems, they're very easy to come out, but again, the last thing you want to do is just tear at it. So as you can see here, I'm really just twisting this off and at the same time really kind of pushing that center down, making sure not to really rip the surface of that pumpkin. Now we're going to take our dowel and we're really going to take a look at how big or how tall this topiary is actually going to be and really cut down that dowel. Now in doing this, you want to make sure that you're cutting it not too short, so then you are supporting all three pumpkins, but then again not too tall because you don't want that last pumpkin to have that dowel coming through. At this point, we're really going to kind of try to take a step back and look at the pumpkin itself, making sure that it's centered, making sure that you like the look from the front, really thinking about what people are going to see from the street if this ends up going on your porch or how you decide to display it. Another thing is really thinking about how straight this dowel goes in, right? The last thing you want is to be putting on that third pumpkin and realize that you have a really crooked pumpkin tower or topiary. Okay, we're moving on to pumpkin number 2. And again, we really want to make sure that we're repeating that process, really being careful with these pumpkins. Because they are styrofoam, I feel like they can definitely mess up pretty easily. So being careful when we're moving tags as well as the stem. Another really key tip in doing this, right? I want to make sure to really secure this pumpkin down with some hot glue gun, especially because it's going to be outside. But prior to doing so, I want to make sure that the look is how I see it, how I want to present it, how I choose to display it, and really making sure that the view, at least from the street to my porch, is really nice. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push this pumpkin down. And you'll see, I'll start to turn it around, really play with the look of it. And until I'm really happy with it, I won't put any hot glue. But when I do, you'll see I'll slightly lift this pumpkin up. I'll put the hot glue under, hold it down, secure it nice and tight, and really make sure that it's secured prior to doing anything else. Also note that because these pumpkins aren't perfectly round, not all surfaces of the hot glue are going to really secure itself. So just remember that you do have things like leaves. If you choose to buy flowers or anything like that, you'll be able to use those kind of decor items to really cover up any imperfections in terms of like what you can see with hot glue and anything else. Okay, moving on to pumpkin number 3. This is really at this point a repetitive process, kind of repeating that exact same thing, right? Making sure the positioning is how you want it prior to putting any kind of hot glue, any permanent fixes or anything like that. I also at this point am really trying to take a look at how this is really going to look up front, right? I want to make sure that my pumpkin is not, slightly turned over, slightly tilted in any way. I'm also at this point really looking at what stem I like better. And you'll see I go back and forth. But it's all a playing process. Like I had said before, these stems are really easy to come off. It's just that you really want to be sure not to damage the pumpkin while you're playing around with the look. Okay, now we're going to move on to the raffia, this fake hay. I really want to make sure that I'm using a lot of this stuff towards the bottom, especially of that bottom pumpkin. Like I had said, really making sure to leave those gaps that were necessary in order to really shove that raffia in there. For me, I think it was really okay to kind of leave it like a messy look. Reminded me a lot of like a pumpkin patch, how hay is really everywhere. But you really also want to make sure that you're securing this properly. So there you saw me put some hot glue. I not only put it on the pumpkin, I also put it on the foam, and I also layered the edge of my barrel with a little bit of hot glue as well, just to make sure this stuff really sticks in there. Again, I'm from the Windy City, so I want to make sure this stuff doesn't end up all over my porch on a really windy day. As you can see here, I'm really just cutting away kind of those longer pieces, things that I think aren't really that secured at this point. I'm going to go ahead and I'm really going to make sure that I'm covering that whole bottom base, really covering up that foam, making it look or appear as if that bottom pumpkin is really sitting on a barrel of hay. So here's a step that's completely optional. I went and I actually bought a smaller bag of this raffia. There I am smelling it. For some reason, it had some kind of a smell. Um, Either way, you can really create different textures within this hay. I really kind of wanted this like messier look. So I really wanted to differentiate between that thicker looking hay with thinner hay, kind of doing bunches, and it also tends to be a little lighter, so it kind of creates this other dimension of color as well. And so now we're going to move on to really the decorative pieces. So here I bought some artificial leaves, but really you can make this however you'd like. I chose to keep it cleaner, more simplistic to fall, just with the leaf color changes and whatnot. But you can honestly add pretty much anything at this point. You can go ahead and put flowers, twigs, berries. Michael's actually has an assortment of items that have really sharp plugs that you can really just like plug into this styrofoam pumpkin and it would stay perfectly. Um, Here, really what I'm going to do is I'm really making sure to secure this with some hot glue, really making sure to push it in. You'll even actually see me at some point grab the scissors and really kind of push those leaves in. I want to make them look as real as possible, even though they're artificial. I don't want to make them look like they're just floating on these pumpkins, but really kind of sitting within it, as if the pumpkin is kind of smashing these leaves. At this point, the project is pretty much completed. I'm really just working on that last tweak, really kind of trying to fill in any last minute holes. But overall, I'm really, really happy with the way that this project turned out. Overall, it looks really good. I'm really glad I decided to DIY it instead of buying something similar in stores. It saved me money and really only took about an hour worth of my time. I'd be really curious to know if you guys have any future ideas, what you want to see. Stay tuned for any other fall decor ideas coming soon. Bye, guys!